will talk about learning and memory types, mechanisms, and disorders. Uh, those are the outline of this presentation. Now let me see what is learning and memory. So one characteristic of animals, including humans, is their ability to alter behavior on basis of experience. So we can change our experience behavior based on our experience. So what is learning? Learning is defined as is acquisition of the information to alter behavior on the basis of experience. So during learning, we obtain information which is important to alter or change our behavior, and this information are coming from our experience. Memory is the retention and storage of that information. The information that is obtained or acquired during the learning are retained to alter the behavior on the basis of experiences. So in memory, we retain and storage the information we obtain during our learning process. So learning and memory are closely related. So this is just a simple diagrams to show the operating of these mechanisms. So we facing experiences, and this learning and memories work together. Learning gets information from the experiences and stored in the memory. The final outcome is these experiences, with the help of learning and memory, alter or change our behavior. So there are some philosophical ideas and which are debated over years whether brain or cerebral hemispheres are not needed for learning. The answer is no. Of course, the learning can be occurred in animals even without any cerebral hemispheres or cortex. Even learning can be observed in unicellular organisms. As example, in amoeba, they can learn to avoid toxic stimuli. And which level this would occur? If it is not in the cerebral cortex, is it subcortical, below the cortical level? Is it at the spinal cord level? So that is a question. But at this level, what you have to remember is changes occurs at the synaptic level is essential. That is the key for learning and memory. We need changes at the synaptic level. So it is known as synaptic plasticity, which is known as changes that occur at the synaptic level, causing a permanent change in the behavior of the synapse. So change of the behavior of the synapses is the basis for learning and memory. However, the more advanced features related to the learning and memory occurs at the cortical level. So having a brain cortex enhance the learning and memory of an. So remember, it's a synaptic plasticity is the basis for memory. So what are the changes that will occur in the synaptic level? So what we can observe is depends on the past experiences of the synapses. Experiences of the synapses are the history of discharge, rate of discharge, strength of discharge are the experiences which can strengthen or weaken the synaptic conduction. So in synaptic plasticity, with the history of the discharge, they will change the synaptic conduction. This could be occur at presynaptic or postsynaptic levels. So there are various mechanisms have been formulated to describe the synaptic plasticity. I have given two main mechanisms. One is post-tetanic potentiation. In post-tetanic potentiation, that will produce enhanced postsynaptic potential and responsible stimulation. The basis to occur post-tetanic potentiation, accumulation of the calcium at the presynaptic neuron is important. To establish a long-term synaptic plasticity, you need long-term potentiation, which involves its protein synthesis, growth of the presynaptic and the postsynaptic neurons and their connection. So long-term and short-term changes and mechanisms are operated at the synaptic level to bring this synaptic plasticity. Is it only the changes at the synapses are important? No. It has shown the learning and memory is associated with the structural changes in the brain. There are evidence in the evolution that more evolutionarily developed animals or higher animals have larger brains relative to the body size. So as an example, human brain size, it's about in adult person is 2.5 kilograms, relatively larger when it's compared with the body size of the adult person. So larger brains, not always, show that animals have a higher ability to learn, perform learning and establish the memory related to the learning. And there are some evidence in the research which also shown that learning can bring structural changes in the brain. One example is the rats who are trained to perform tasks, push a lever, open a door, develop thicker and heavier cerebral cortex than their untrained peers or rats. So there are evidence that showing that learning is associated with structural change in the brain. Let's see what are the types of learning. So broadly, we can divide the learning into two types: associative learning and the non-associative learning. In associative learning, the person develops an association. Association. The association is built with a pairing of stimulus with the behavior. In non-associative learning, this type of pairing of stimulus or behavior cannot be observed. There are no two main types of non-associative learning: habituation and sensitization. So I will start with habituation or non-associative learning, and this type, what are the other types of learning in next few slides. Habituation is the simplest form of learning. Not only in higher animals, it can be occurred in even in the animals with not very well developed brain. As its name implies it's a non-associative, not pairing a stimulus with a behavior. At the end of this learning, the animal does not develop any connection between the stimulus and the behavior. Other main feature of habituation is its response decreases with the every progressive stimulus. When you continuously apply application of the stimulus, what you can observe is the magnitude and the frequency of the response is gradually decreasing. So in habituation, first response is the orientation reflex. Orientation. So in our high function, we assess orientation of the person, orientation of the type, orientation of the place, orientation of the person, with a person aware about his surroundings. So this orientation reflects in habituation. Try to find the answer. What is it? So as an example, when you are listening to the lecture in a room, there will be a sound. Noises are appearing outside. It may be a tapping your parents to the door or a crying baby in the neighboring house. So what is your first response? What is it? What is that tap? What is that noise? It's a bomb blast. So we are trying to find the answer for this. What is it? So when you find the answer, when it's less non-significant, unimportant, non-threatening, non-harmful, you forget it. Even noises appearing there, you just forget. This is another important feature related to this phenomenon. Our human brain has a remarkable ability to treat novel information and repeated information differently. So humans always look for novel things and forget about the repeated stale information. So this is one remarkable ability to related to habituation, and it is important for learning. Always we are looking for novel things, novel fashion, novel people, novel techniques, gadgets. That's why when you Apple company release a now new Apple phone, people go for a new uh, version of the Apple device. So we are looking for novelty and forget about the repeated stale information. So this is shown with infants who are looking at the novel stimuli than the repeated stimuli. So in the babies at less than 1 year, always try to look at the novel things, novel faces, sounds. So that is the feature that shows our humans are trained to look for novel information. Opposite of habituation is sensitization, where repeated stimuli produce a greater response. This response occurs at the presynaptic levels, sensitization, and sensitization brings attention, which helps to focus on one particular sensory input while forgetting or inhibiting the other stimuli. As example, when you are enter into a lecture hall, when you find a chair and sit on a chair, when your body comes contact into a chair, you get lot of pressure sensation, touch and pressure sensation. Initially, it helps you to adjust your posture. Hari pari gihila wadi wenna. And when the lecture progress, your brain forget those sensations and just focus on the what is delivering at the lecture. So you're focusing and bring attention to a one point. But as an example, the chair, there's a nail coming out and it touch your skin. So it's cause pain. Now, if there's such a situation, you cannot forget that pain caused by the nail because there's a potential threat for your health. So if some nail is touching your skin throughout the lecture, you are suffering from it. You have to pay attention to that nail. There are a few notorious chairs in both lecture halls A and B and the D with some nails. Right. So this sensitization leads to a arousal value of the stimulus. If we give a value for the stimulus, in habituation, we forget. If it's unnecessary, we forget about that. But sensitization give a value for that particular stimulus. Now, if you take the same example of a baby cry, now it is not important for a neighbor like you, but baby's cry is an important stimuli for the mother, that baby's mother. When the baby cry, mother is responding. If it's continuously cry, mother response is increasing. මොකද දන්නේ බබා දිගටම අඬන්නේ. So sensitization increase the response. So here I have summarized the main difference between sensitization. So in the time when you continuously apply time stimulus, magnitude of the response increases. That is sensitization. But when you look at the habituation, at a time when you apply the stimulus, the magnitude of the response, the force of the energy in the response, or the frequency of the response may be gradually decreasing. Now let's move to the associative learning. So habituation and sensitization and non-associative learning. In associative learning, we are trying to pair or make a connection between stimulus with the behavior. So in associative learning, you have ability to an animal or a human to connect a previously irrelevant stimulus with a particular response. So some stimulus are irrelevant previously, but with the experiences, we learn that even though it is irrelevant, it may relate to a particular response. And it also gives associative learning give ability to learn about the relationship between two or more stimuli at a time. So you build relationship between two or more stimuli because of this associative learning. Now, it is very important factor that our brain is not designed to recall information in isolation. Brain groups information into one association or memory. That means, as an example, when you are looking at or meet a person for the first time, when you look at her or his face, our brain acquire information. Try to learn to identify that person. If it's somewhat totally unfamiliar for you, brain gets information about that person. What is the hair color? What's the skin color? There are two eyes in just below the nose there is a mouth. So brain make a mental picture about this information and stored as associated. He gets together all the information and make up one picture that is stored in the brain as a memory. So if the same person you meet again, brain will recall those memories, but not by isolation. So this is not coming first from the skin color, hair color, eye color, pupil color. No. It will bring them one image of that person, a memory, one associated, made up with the information you have obtained with the first encounter. So I give a small task. Can you identify this person? A lady? Anybody? If you can identify him, For her, yes, it's her. Just give me a, you can put in the chat box. Right. So I do gradually zoom out it, sorry, so zoom in it. Try whether you can identify. Can you identify? Yeah. Yes. So it is Mona Lisa. Ah, yes. I have two responses. One say Mona Lisa, other one say Queen Elizabeth. Ah, okay. Thanks for your response. You are alert. Right. So yes. So when you see the Mona Lisa for the first time, our brain, okay, get the color, or her hair pattern, eye color, skin color, makeup information. But when you recall that Mona Lisa as a Mona Lisa image, so that is just we get the information in isolation one by one, but ultimately we form a one image. Now this associated learning is a form of conditioning. Now this one you will be encountered uh, frequently. Word conditioning, conditioning reflexes. We are going to talk about. So what is conditioning? In conditioning, behavior can be modified or learned based on a stimulus, and a response is formed. So conditioning helps to modify our behavior based on the stimulus, and new response, new behavior pattern is formed. So you can observe that from the beginning of this associated learning, dogs are appearing in my house because this very famous uh, research done on this associated learning are related to the dog, Pavlov's dog. I think you are familiar with Pavlov. So in learning, in conditional reflexes, we get a reflex response acquired or learned by experiences. So reflexes are developed by based on our experiences. To develop that conditioning reflexes, that person must be repeatedly exposure to the stimulus, and the individual must pair that stimulus with another stimulus that normally produces a response. So new or artificial stimulus is paired or get connected with the natural stimulus, which brings or triggers the natural response. That is conditioning. So it is the Pavlov in his classical experiment with Pavlov's dog shows uh, conditioning reflex, conditioned reflex. So I will explain what is conditioned reflex, which related to a Pavlov study. So in the conditioned reflex, what you can observe is an unconditioned stimulus, unaltered stimulus, natural stimulus, which automatically brings the unconditioned reflex, natural reflex. And it contains conditioned stimulus or altered stimulus and the conditioned response, altered to modified to new behavior. That is the conditioned response. So Pavlov's experiment, I think I'm not going to explain what is Pavlov's experiment, but I think you are very familiar with it. So what Pavlov's experiment, unconditioned stimulus is the meat, site of the meat. So that is the natural stimulus. Unconditioned or natural response is salivation. When the dog see a meat, it triggers salivation. So what Pavlov did is he paired this natural stimulus with a new stimuli, a conditioned stimulus. That is the sound of the bell. So when he showed the meat, he rang a bell. So that dogs were repeatedly exposure to the stimulus. Ringing the bell, show the meat, or giving the meat. After some time, that dog developed a conditioned response, altered on new behavior. What is the new behavior? Salivation is triggered by the ringing of the bell or sound of the bell. That is the new behavior. Natural behavior was seen in the meat, but new behavior is hearing or sound of the bell brings the salivation. So there are a few reflexes in our body which can be conditioned. If you can be called salivation, it's a conditional reflex. Now we are using this method to treat condition. Surprisingly, it has shown our visceral responses, the function or action of our internal organs can be altered or conditioned by a mechanism or modality by called biofeedback mechanism, where we try to learn our body function, our heart rate, muscle tension, breathing, blood pressure, even a brain wave pattern can be altered by this mechanism. We can train person to alter his internal function by condition. So it is known as biofeedback mechanism. So this is emerging as an important non-pharmacological therapeutic option to treat one very bothersome chronic conditions such as urinary incontinence. As example, some multiparous women who has delivered about two or many babies or having difficult labors may develop urinary incontinence. They cannot control time and place of the urination. So we can train them by this mechanism to control their urination, time and the place, like same like diabetic fecal incontinence. Prolonged uncontrolled diabetes mellitus associated with the neuropathy, damage to the autonomic neuron, which will bring this fecal incontinence. They cannot control their defecation. Likewise, there are many conditions. We are trained person with this mechanism to control their or condition or alter their internal body function. Amazing. Right, so that's about learning. Now let's see move to the memory. So memory is defined as retention and storage of information that acquired during the learning to alter the behavior on the basis of the experience. So in memory, we retain and store the information which has been obtained during the learning to alter our behavior. The information are coming from our experience. There are two types of memory, explicit memory and implicit memory. Again, I want to stress that the key for memory is the alteration and the strength of the selected synaptic connection. So we need changes we have to strengthen the synaptic connections to bring the memory or develop memory. Now let's see what are these types of memory. Explicit memory, which is also known as declarative or recognition memory. Now this is memory is clear and in detail, because when we develop this memory, we are aware about this. We know we are developing this memory. We have a consciousness on about it. So therefore, we are very clear about it. I am developing this memory. What are the in detail? Okay, at what level I am at on this? process. It depends on the two parts of the brain, hippocampus and the medial temporal lobe. Now, hippocampus is a very important part of the brain which related to a memory. It helps to convert the short-term memory into long-term memory and consolidation of the memory. Make them deposited in the brain. But remember, it is not a storage room for memory. Hippocampus do not store memory. But it has two important functions related to memory: conversion of short-term memory into long-term and consolidation of the memory. But it is not a place to store memory. So explicit memory is related to two types of memory. Memory related to the event, episodic memory, episodes of our life. And memory related for words, rules, and language, which is known as semantic memory. So implicit memory is not the clear memory. We are not aware whether we have developed or not. We are not aware. Therefore, it is known as non-declarative or reflexive memory. It's a reflex mechanism. Reflex is developed. And it not depends on the hippocampus. But this memory is important to train reflexive motor or perceptual skills. Implicit memories are very important to develop certain motor skills. As example, cycling or typing. So when you are cycling or driving a vehicle, you are not thinking about the next steps. How we are going to drive in without your awareness, you can drive or cycle. And with certain habits like nail biting or touch your nose. So without your awareness, you are perform these tasks unless somebody is noticing. Conditioned reflexes in non-associated learning. In conditioned reflexes, this memory is important. So how we are connect these two memories? What's the connection between explicit memory and the implicit memory? Remember, explicit memories can become implicit over some time. So memories can change its type. Now, as example, typing. So when you are first comes with the encounter with the keyboard, when you are asked to type a letter, what you are doing? What you in a very in layman's society, it will say you are following a four system. A co, B co, C co. So you are looking at the word A, pressing. The B co, yes, here. It's touching. So initially in the explicit memory, with your awareness, you go and find the key and press it. So that's how you learn. That is the explicit memory. You are aware that now you are developing a memory related to the typing. But what will happen when you get trained? If you can watch a trained typist without the keyboard, they can type 60 to 100 words, not letters, words within a minute, because they are trained. Now their explicit memories are come to implicit memories. They are without their awareness. It's just like a reflex. They just type without their keyboard with a very high speed. Same thing happens when you are trying to learn driving a vehicle. Clutch එක දාන්න ඕන, clutch ඊට පස්සේ gear එක දාන්න ඕන, accelerator පා ගන්න ඕන. So you are thinking the next step. But when you are trained driver, no need to remember. Reflexively, it goes. So remember, explicit memories can become implicit after some time. So these diagrams are from your Ganon. So it gives four mechanisms which are related to the implicit memory. Procedures memory related procedures which can help to obtain skills and habits. Timing and perceptual ones which helps to uh, predict the next step. With your experiences, you can predict what is the next word or letter. So likewise, there are games. If somebody say, what are the related? What if somebody say, okay, yes, lightning or thunder. You know, when somebody say, then akunu gahanawa. That means you have to next step is thunder. So you can predict the next step. Associate level, classical conditioning one. So our responses depends on what is the part of the brain activated when we are associative learning. We are trying to build the connection between stimulus and the response and non-associative learning. So those are the four mechanisms important or bring this implicit memory. Right, now I will give a task. I'll give 60 seconds to read and understand the phrases. I'm going to display 60 seconds. So you may heard some counting, forget it. And if you can read it, type this in the chat box. Okay, now we are starting. So this is the phrase. If you can, now I'm start counting 1 to 50. Yes, time is up. Let's go. How many of you can read it? Okay, Indivari has responded. Yes. Uh, yes. According to the research at Cambridge University, it doesn't matter in what order the letters in word are. The only important thing is that the first and last letter be at the same right place. The rest can be a total mess and you can still read it without problem. This is because the human mind does not read every letter by itself, by the word as a whole. So what is this? This is the priming and perceptual. So which helps to recognize a word by prior exposure to them, as well as it will improve your recall. You can guess, okay, what is next one? So that shows how efficient our brain. So our brain does not store everything. It just only stored the information which are important for assets, which are has a value of for a memory. Now, what are the types of memory? So there are three types of memory according to the duration, how long we can keep it. Short-term memory, long-term memory, and the working memory. Now let's go one by one. What is short-term memory? So for short-term memory, both explicit memory and the many forms of implicit memory are involved. And usually these memories last or persist seconds to hours. And this is the memory related to this famous question. What did you say? මොකක්ද කිව්වේ? So that is something easily forget. මේ කියනවා මේ මතක නැහැ. So most important feature of long short-term memory is the memory traces are subject to disruption by trauma and various drugs. So short-term memory is the memory which can be destroyed or get disrupted or altered by the external forces. So when you compare the long-term memory, short-term memory is highly vulnerable. It can be easily traced or erased from your memory. In contrast to the short-term memory, in long-term memory, they store the memories for years and sometimes for life. මට ඕකනම් ජීවිත කාලෙම තියෙනකම් මතක නැති වෙනවා. Likewise. And it will, to develop the long-term memory, you need the long-term changes in the synaptic strength or synaptic strength. Yes, India is responding. Guys, previous slide about reading or seeing the Facebook. Yes, definitely. It's not a Facebook one. Actually, it's a developed. This scientist has been developed this one. So actually, when you get now this research on memory and learning is a very vast one, right? So every day they are developing this concept related to the memory and learning, because that is the where you can influence other people, especially in marketing, in business world. They are targeting colors, brands, procedures, how they, so there are a lot of research are going on related to memory and learning. How do we learn? So we can alter the people by change their learning behavior. Yes, right. So when you so this needs to processing of short-term memory in the hippocampus. So remember, hippocampus is very important for memory. It is the place where you convert the short-term memory into the long-term memory. And when you compare the short-term memory, it is remarkably resistant to disruption. So long-term memory is difficult to erase from your memory. So most of the time, when there is in disease conditions, short-term memory is disrupted. When you ask, okay, what you had in the previous meal or lunch, they will say, "Well, garniking kaawa." So they cannot remember what they have eaten previous meal. But when you have some important event in the past, if somebody is in 70s or 80s with short-term memory impairment, if you ask, okay, Bandaranayaga මහත්තයාට වෙඩි තිබ්බ හැටි මතකද? අයියෝ මට මතක නැති මං 8 පන්ති හිටියේ ඉස්කෝලේ ඉඳන් එනකොට හන්දියේ කඩේ රේඩියෝ එකේ විස්තරය යනවා. Likewise, they will come out. That means it is long-term memory is very difficult to erase. They are very remarkably resistant for disruption. External forces, drugs, or other disease, even disease condition cannot has less ability to damage your long-term memory. So what is working memory? So it's the RAM of the brain, or rapid access memory of your memory, working memory. It's a form of short-term memory that keeps information available usually for a very short period while the individual plan action based on it. So this working memory keeps the information for a very short period until you plan the action based on it. Thereafter, it will get erased. So I have explained more details about the working memory. So in working memory has capacity to hold small amount of information in active, easily accessible state, usually for less than 30 seconds at a time. So when you compare short-term and long-term memory, it's a kind of a short-term memory, but has a very small capacity and ability to hold 4 to 5 elements of new information at one time. So there are several tests available in the internet or the YouTube. You can see how to check it, because our ability to remember or memorize the information with the help of working memory restricted to 4 to 5 elements. So working memory, there's a continuous transfer of information between the long-term memory and the working memory, both retrieval and the transfer. So working memory take information from the long-term memory for a short period, same time new information not sent to the long-term memory. So it is a bidirectional process. Now this is one kind of a complex one. It has been proposed a model which has 3 main parts. Some models say there are 4 main parts, because this working memory is very important for our to perform our day-to-day activities. Now, in working memory, there are 3 main parts. Central executive is there, phonological loop is there, and visual and spatial processing part is there. Now, central executive is the boss or the main chief executive officer or this main whole mechanism, controls the other two as well as send information to the other two mechanisms. It is like that when you are driving a vehicle, while talking with somebody in the other seat, the vehicle in front of you suddenly stops. So when you see the red light of the brake light, you will stop the talk, put the brake to stop your vehicle. So that is kind with this central executive. He overrides all the other active and focus on the main one. So what is the new information and what is the old information he's handling here? Now he's using his memory to drive the vehicle, talk with other people, transfer the information about the current topic, or some other topic. Same time, he has to focus, get the new information of what's the new development ahead of him. So he knows by experiences when he's driving a car in the road, in front of him and the back, there are vehicles are there. And if the vehicle's brake lights appears red, that means the vehicle in front of you going to stop. You have to put your brake, and otherwise by experience you know it will end up with an accident. So those are the memories, experiences, and all what operating at there. But what is the main task now? Central executive now prevent the accident. You have to avoid the accident by putting your brake if your front vehicle has stopped. So that's the central executive force. Now, phonological loop is it's a mechanism lasting very short time. Some scientists say it's less than 2 seconds. Now, it helps for activities like reading. So when you are reading from the beginning to end, you have to remember the things. Otherwise, you cannot get the whole picture, meaning of the sentences. Sometimes you express ප්‍රශ්නය කියවනකොට මුල කියවනකොට අග මතක නැහැ. That means it's a lengthy one. So when the information are put into phonological loop, so it will remember what we have read for a very short period and give that memory to connect what is currently you are reading. So when you move to the next part, you have a new part memory is built from what we have already read on the sentence. So that's how when you are reading, you keep the flow of the reading, how you take the whole picture of the meaning of the sentence or a paragraph or a book. And navigation, visual and spatial processing. So it will process information for move, follow a map, or for your navigation. Do you have any activities hereafter? Can I take another 15 minutes?
Yes, sir.
Oh, yes, okay, right. Right. So there are a few other concepts related to intercortical transfer of memory. Now it has shown this learning and formation of new memories can occur within a single hemisphere. One cortex is sometimes responsible for development of learning and memory. Are there any transferring of this information in between the two cortex? Yes, there are evidence has shown that memory can be transferred to the opposite cortex via anterior portion of the corpus callosum. So memory is interchanged between two cortex via this corpus callosum. If you cut this part of the brain, this intercortical transfer of memories won't occur, and cortex stored memory. Another aspect of memory and learning is neurogenesis. Usually, it is taught as that uh, in the fetal life, after the fetal life, no new neurons are developed. That's the number of neurons which develop at the fetus gradually decrease and no new neurons are developed. That is what the common accepted belief. But it has shown at least for two places in the body, neurogenesis occurs. New neurons are developed from the stem cells. Stem cells are the cells which has the ability to convert into any type of cell. So it has shown neurogenesis occurs throughout the life is in at least two areas. One is in the olfactory bulb, which is commonly a common topic with this SARS-CoV-2 virus or a COVID-19 pandemic, where your olfaction gets altered, you may develop anosmia. And other one is hippocampus. So hippocampus is important for conversion of short-term memory into the long-term memory, as well as consolidation of the memory, but not as a memory storage. So it has shown that growth of new granular cells in the dentate gyrus of the hippocampus may contribute to learning and memory. So new development of the new neurons are important at the hippocampus is important for learning and memory. Now let's see what is the molecular basis of the memory. So, but remember it is the synaptic changes. Synaptic changes are the key for memory and learning, but there are changes at the molecular level. So I have it's a three mechanism, but there are many other mechanisms have been explained. Uh, One is involvement of second messenger system for changes in the neural circuits and alteration in the cellular membrane channel by change of the potassium and prolongation of action potential. And development of the long-term memory is associated with the synthesis of proteins and the activation of the genes. So there are several mechanisms associated with the development of memory, and there are many more than this. Now we are moving to an important concept known as memory encoding, consolidation. How our brain consolidates, strengthens, deposit, or make them it as a solid part of our brain function. Now this memory encoding or consolidation is time. The mechanism is the synthesis of RNA, and this is taken place at the hippocampus. So remember, hippocampus is very important for memory, but not as a memory storage. Now, memory encoding is take time. In between, if you are giving, or our brain is subjected to external forces, this memory encoding may not. So what are the causes for memory encoding? One is anesthesia. Some anesthetic drugs can prevent this formation of memory. Now it is useful in some instances. As example, in certain invasive procedures like endoscopy and colonoscopy, where you put a camera through your mouth, or sometimes your nose, or through your anus inside your brain. Can you imagine how, even you think about it, it seems to be a highly unpleasant and irritable event. So, just before action, before implementing or performing this type of invasive procedure, we are giving small dose of anesthetic drug or some drugs which can sedate the people, which make you sleepy, like midazolam. Now, this midazolam, there are many other drugs like diazepam, clonazepam, various drugs are there which make you sleep. If you want to sedate or make the patient sleep, you can use other drugs. But what is the importance of giving this particular midazolam? Now it has shown when you are giving this midazolam, it will disrupt this memory encoding. It will establish a memory related to a process. The patient may not get a memory how you develop this unpleasant sensation when somebody put a tube through your nose or throat. Can you remember? Can you imagine what is the how irritable it is? But when you are giving midazolam, that person may not remember those unpleasant events. So what is the importance of it? Important is we can bring the people again for that same procedure. Otherwise, that's the response from the people. If you want to repeat, most of the time you want to repeat. As example, if somebody comes with a bleeding, rectal bleeding, it may be a bleeding from an abnormal tumor in the colon. So you have to do a colonoscopy and remove it, but you have to do it yearly, 6 months, repeat and see whether there are other tumors are developing. Are they going to cancerous? So you have to repeat the procedure. But if the patient knows this is very unpleasant, if they develop unpleasant memories related to the procedure, he won't come back. So that is important. If we can disrupt the memory encoding related to the unpleasant event, that's a beneficial effect. Other one is electrical shock. Now, electrical shocks are we have performed on some refractory cases of some psychiatric illnesses. Hypothermia, when the somebody is subjected for a low body temperature, that will disrupt their memory encoding. Drugs like, such as midazolam I have explained. And some antibodies and oligonucleotides which when block the protein synthesis. So this process involved with RNA synthesis and protein synthesis. So if the drug or any compound can disrupt this process, protein synthesis, it will damage the memory encoding process. So remember, recent memory or short-term memory is easier because encoding is not complete. So finally, what are the memory disorders? There are two memory disorders, amnesia and dementia. When you talk about amnesia, it is a loss of memory. Definition of amnesia is loss of memory. There are two types of memory loss. Amnesia. Retrograde amnesia and the anterograde amnesia. Retrograde amnesia known as backward amnesia. So what will happen is a person's pre-existing memory are lost to a conscious recollection beyond an ordinary degree of forgetfulness, just able to memorize anything. So all of us have a ordinary degree of forgetfulness. Yes, up to a certain extent. Yes, it is acceptable. But if somebody develops a memory loss or forgetting beyond that normal level, it is known as retrograde amnesia. It's like this. It usually happens or we encounter after road traffic accident. So when you ask the person, what was happened? So the person may say, Mama ගාලි වන්න තියස්ථාගෙන ගෙදරින් එළියට ඇවිල්ලා කරාපිටිය හන්දිය පාස් කරා ඊට පස්සේ සිහිය එනකොට කරාපිටිය පිටිතාලේ ඇඳ උඩ තමයි හිටියේ. So his intention was to go to goal from his town via Karapitiya. So he can remember he entered into the road past the Karapitiya hospital. After that, but he can remember he is on the surgical bed of the Karapitiya hospital, surrounded by their relatives. But what was actually happened? He met with the accident at the gold town and has brought to the Karapitiya hospital. So he has forget even from passing the Karapitiya hospital to the gold town to met with the accident and brought him into the surgical bed at the Karapitiya hospital. So that is retrograde. From some point to some point in the past history, he has forget. That is retrograde amnesia. But after that, he has retained this ability to develop new memories. So he can know after that he only forget one part of the history. In retrograde amnesia, the person's ability to memorize new things is impaired or lost. So the person's ability to form new memories is lost when there's an anterograde or forward amnesia. So his ability to form new memories at the present is lost. So that is the two main difference between retrograde amnesia. In retrograde amnesia, in the past, some memories related to one period of time is lost. In retrograde amnesia, the person's ability to develop new memories has been lost. Now, this is the one form of disorders related to memory, amnesia, loss of memory. Other one is known as dementia. So what is the difference between dementia and amnesia? So in both conditions, memory loss is there. But in dementia, they will develop a significant cognitive impairment. They are unable to perform cognitive function. What is cognitive function? Our mental abilities to read, learn things, memorize things, talk, our speech, arithmetic solution, our thinking, those are the cognitive functions. So if a memory loss is accompanied or associated with the cognitive impairment, it is dementia. It is common, especially in old age. So some forms are Alzheimer's disease, sorry, is a common cause for dementia, and senile dementia. Senile means the diseases related to the old age. So what will happen in dementia? What will be a global impairment of higher function, not only the cognitive, whole range of higher function. Their consciousness is impaired. What you call is cloudy one. They have some not very clear consciousness. Time to time, they come to a normal consciousness and altered consciousness. Cognitive functions are impaired. Orientation is impaired. They don't know where is there now. Time, they don't know. Place, they don't know. And memory is impaired. Both short-term and long-term memory may be impaired. But remember, most of the time, long-term memory is preserved. Short-term memory is the one main area that will be get damaged. So remember, if you have a chance to care a patient with dementia, that is the worst experience you may encounter in your life. It is very difficult to manage these people, especially if a dementia person or inpatient in your house. If you are a family member of a dementia people, it is one of the hardest time in your life. Sometimes we say we must treat the relatives of the people, not the person, because it's sometimes causing significant social problem. Now, if somebody comes, neighbors come to your house, asking from that dementic patient, "See, දවල්ට බස් කෑවද? අනේ වේල ගානක් කාලා නැහැ මට කන්න දීලා නැහෙනි." So that they cannot remember whether they have had their lunch or not. So what will happen? That the rumors are spreading that old person in that house is not treated well by their children. So that is, even if somebody get lost, so that is very important. You have to keep eye on the person. He may enter into the bus and get down from one place. They may lost because they cannot come to a place again. They have no memory. So this is a very cumbersome and difficult condition, dementia. Okay, another memory dissociation of some memory is known as temporal lobe stimulation, which will evoke a very interesting phenomenon known as deja vu phenomenon. So what will in this happen? You get unexpected sensation of familiarity. So when you visit some places, you may hear some people say, "මට මේක කලින් මෙතෙන්ට ඇවිල්ලා වගේ දැනලා තියෙනවා." If you meet somebody, "මට ඔයා කලින් කොහෙද හරි දැකලා තියෙනවා." So you get a unexpected sensation of familiarity. You see, I am familiar with, but when you check your history, you have been never ever goes to that particular place. But still, you get that sensation. I am familiar with. I have been here, like sensation. So this déjà vu means in the French word already seen. You feel already seen that person, already seen that place, already seen that event. It's not uncommon that 70% of the Americans reported instance of déjà vu, this phenomena. So Americans are a bit, anyway, we know that particular person, but majority of them say once in their life they have this phenomenon. So sometimes the stories of rebirth are related to this phenomena, but they are just a speculation. There's an interesting film, no name is Deja. Denzel Washington is the key actor. Very interesting. If you can find that, go and watch that film. Very interesting. So last one, long-term memory. So long-term memories are stored in various parts of the neocortex and short long-term changes in strength of the transmission at the relevant synaptic junction. All the components are brought to the consciousness when memory is recalled. So in long-term memory, there are long-term changes and it will bring all the components related to this particular event or a person. And again, I stress is once long-term memories have been established, they could be recalled or assessed by large number of different associations. Basically, that means difficult to erase. You cannot your long-term memory easily. Even you say, "Mage matakaය ගුලි කර මහවැලියට දමන්න," it is very difficult to erase the long-term memory. So with that, I will conclude my lecture on this learning and memory. So if you have any question, you can email to me. Ask any question other than when is the second day DBS. Only God knows. We have plans, but we don't know how we are going to implement them. And from our side, we can say from this way to second day DBS, we are preparing the one of the hardest or most difficult physiology paper ever set on this faculty of medicine. So we have to get ready. And another thing is, yes, another thing is, this is a high time if you can convey your concern in writing. That means as a group you can convey, okay, what you will expect from department or faculty when it gets started. When we start the on-site teaching, okay, how many, what's the vacation you need, what are the extra teaching if you need as on-site teaching, it's better to convey in writing. So, but my advice is don't ask for prolonged or lengthy vacation. Definitely they are counterproductive. That means when you say having a lengthy vacation do not not ensure that you will get a higher marks or you will pass marks. It has shown it inverse is happening. When you have subject to a prolonged or lengthy vacation or study leave, your performance get down. So that is my advice, but it's up to you. And at the same time, I will send a Google form to get
Recording stopped.
Google form to get your feedback if you wish. You can give me a feedback. So in the chat, I have given the link. So you can give me online feedback on this particular lecture. So with that, I will conclude this one. lecture on memory and okay, question is okay. I have question. Have we done anything wrong? Difficult paper what? No, no, no. It's not like this. I just kidding. Though you will get a standard paper, but anyway, you have a very long vacation. It is ample time to prepare. Though there's nothing called difficult. You see, difficult is highly subjective. Person to person, it's difficult level is different. But whatever the thing is, it will be a standard paper, right? Remember, it is not now. We have very high, what you call it, very robust scrutiny mechanism in here. We have a department scrutiny, faculty level. Our papers have been scrutinized by the other department people. Not only that, even dean and all the three heads are looking at your final paper. So after that, nobody cannot change it. So there is a standardization. No other faculties in this university has such a. So remember, difficult levels will be, you will even if you are, I cannot decide what is the paper. Difficult level, it is a standard way, right? So don't you take it as just every day we prepare a standard file, right? Difficulty is highly subjective. It depends on you. If you are not studied well, it becomes difficult, right? Okay, with that, I will conclude this session. Thank you for your participation.